What's up? Juno here. And if you live in the United States, or even if you don't, you probably know that right now it's election time and there's various initiatives in various states on the ballot, as well as people running for certain offices and stuff like that that are in a way important, but sometimes there are issues that are very important as well. Now, the state I live in, California, is no stranger to big initiatives on ballots. In the last election, probably the biggest issue that was on the ballot had to do with gay marriage. And we all know how that went down and how it's still going down and trying to get sorted out. But this time around, there is another very high attention issue that is on the ballot in my state of California, and that would be Proposition 19. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Proposition 19, I'm going to, also, so you can, even if you are familiar with it, I'll post two links on the side, and I'm going to explain the links. Well, I'm going to explain one right now, and we'll go into detail about it, and then the next one. So you can check out all this information for yourself. I'm not going to read it, I'm just going to present it, at least important bits that I find to be interesting, or in basically explaining this. So, what it does is Proposition 19 will allow those people in the state who are 21 years of age or older to possess up to an ounce of marijuana. And those people that fit that category may consume the marijuana in a non-public place or a public establishment licensed for the consumption of marijuana. And you may grow marijuana in a private residence in a space of up to 25 square feet for personal use. So those are some fairly big things, and it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. Now, I've been watching the polls very closely with this since it was enacted on the ballot, and ironically enough, it was enacted or available to be on the ballot on April 20th, 2010, which I find to be hilarious. But if you look at the poll results, which are listed on the first link that I'll put in the description, you can see those in favor and those opposed over various, since from April to October 17th. There's been various polls, and the sample size has been varied depending on the polls, and it's been interesting. The majority of the times these polls were taken, there have been more people or a higher percentage of the population in favor of it. However, currently, right now, in the most recent poll that was done, or it was carried out between October 10th and October 17th, 2010, right now in favor is 44%, opposed is 49%, undecided is 7%. The sample size was 2002. Now, the most recent one that was higher was, in terms of in favor, was September 19th through September 26th by the same group. Their sample size was 2,004 people, and in favor was 52%, opposed was 41%, and undecided was 7%. So that's very interesting. It's kind of bounced back and forth, but for more of the time, it's been in favor, which is good, at least in my opinion. So, another thing I want to talk about is, what does this do for the state? Well, right now, California is in severe debt, and it's been projected that this could raise $1.4 billion in the first year, which is amazing, and will help pay down the debt and hopefully move towards getting all that shit squared out, because the state is as broke as a joke, and they're cutting things left and right, and it's just getting ridiculous. So, yeah, that would be good. And also, it would also free up police time and efforts and everything to deal with actual violent crime or crimes of various natures that they should be dealing with, not bullshit in terms of trying to enforce pointless drug laws, or at least in terms of this drug. Because let's look at marijuana, okay? Let's compare marijuana to alcohol and tobacco, okay? Both alcohol and tobacco kill tens of thousands of people per year in this country, yet they're both legal. Marijuana, on the other hand, doesn't kill anybody, and it's illegal. But by making it legal, it's a safer substance than alcohol and tobacco. How many times have you heard there's been rages and stuff? People who are high on pot, smacking someone around or getting into fights and stuff like that. It just doesn't happen. It's a different effect. And as someone who has both smoked pot and drank to the point of getting drunk and smoke to the point of getting completely obliteratedly floating high, the feeling is completely different. Another thing from personal testing on my part, I can still function high. I can still think, I can still get work done, I can still do a lot of things high. Drunk, forget it. I talk a lot and I'm just sloppy, and you can't see straight. With weed, at least with me, it's the complete opposite. I can still function. Now, the arguments from those that are opposed to this, I have found to be laughable and hold as much water as those people who are against Prop 8 with their arguments. They're on a similar playing field, even though we're talking about very different things here. One thing that is continuously thrown out by those people who are opposed to this is that people, if this becomes legal, people will smoke and drive. Well, I could completely turn that right back around and say, well, if alcohol is legal, people will drink and drive. It holds as much water. Yeah, alcohol is legal and marijuana is not. It's a bullshit argument. With alcohol, someone who uses it responsibly will either, go to a bar and maybe it's within distance of their house, they don't drive, or they'll call a cab home, or they'll just buy some alcohol and enjoy it in their house. I could see the same thing going on here. There are certain countries out there and certain areas where there are hash bars and stuff like that, where you can go and consume various products with marijuana. Hell, even in cannabis clubs in the state of California, there are certain ones that have rooms and stuff like that, where if you're a patient, obviously you're there, so you have a cannabis club so you can consume it, which is amazing. And also people who use it responsibly in their house, there's people who can sit there and smoke and not leave and not go anywhere. They're just hanging out in their house. How bad is that? It's not bad at all. It's just not. What is the deal here? I don't get it. Another argument that is thrown out, which I find to be complete bullshit and completely lacking any sort of scientific research and just something that has been used over and over again, is that it's addictive. Ooh, it's so addictive. That's bullshit. It's not addictive. As someone who has used it recreationally and, well, fairly regularly for many years, I don't really see the argument there. I'm not addicted to it. I've gone through times where I've had to stop for various reasons, and it's, not a thing. Whether it be money or job situation or just convenience or the place I was going to, it just happened, and it's not really that big of a deal. It's not, you don't have the same thing like with smoking or whatever. It just doesn't happen. It's not. It's complete bullshit, at least from my findings and my personal testing. But, that's just bullshit. Now, if we look at those people who are endorsing it, there are more people, not to say that this is a good way to base your reasoning, but if you look at those who are in favor of this, there is a lot of former police chiefs and stuff like that from various parts of the state of California, as well as other states that are in support of decriminalizing it. And also, there is not a single law professor or scholar that is on this list that is voting or has been in the position of no against this, which I find to be very interesting. Now, who are the people that are in support of this? Well, both of the major political candidates for governor of the state of California in the Republican and Democrat Party are both against Proposition 19. So right now, to me, that throws my vote way the hell out of there. I don't like any of the candidates, but that's just one reason more to hate the major parties, and I might not vote for one of them, but that's for a separate video that I actually already have shot that I haven't released yet, so I'm not going to get into that here. But you also see who's contributing money to this and stuff like that, and it's just not really, it's not surprising. You have DARE and those various groups that are for this. But something that really kind of bugged me, which is the second link here, is that they interviewed the head sheriff of Los Angeles County. This is from the LA ABC news channel, and he just said a whole bunch of bullshit in this, and you can even tell that he just was spouting nonsense and just like kind of, it almost seemed like he couldn't believe it. But a lot of the times people will support things for the wrong reasons, and also some people may support certain causes because of celebrity endorsement. Again, I don't base my opinions that way, but maybe, just maybe, in this ABC story that I'm going to post a link to, maybe this will get people to support this initiative if they see some high profile actors, well, I guess they're kind of high profile. They have very established names, at least two of them do. Maybe they'll vote in favor of it. And I'm not saying that's a great way to base your voting, but it could work for bad things, bad causes, or at least in my opinion, what may be bad causes, and it could also work in favor of good causes, or what I consider good causes. I'm not saying that's a great way to get your point across, but it's a way nonetheless, and a lot of people may go for that. But, whatever. We'll just have to see. Another argument that is thrown out by those who are against this is they seem to think that if this passes, that those industries, in terms of business, that do drug testing and stuff for various positions, that this will kind of go out the window, which is completely not the case. It still lets employers to do this. That's not entirely true. They're lying to you when they say shit like that. So if you look at their arguments, they're not really that great. The only thing that's a little bit concerning, but this was threatened before in the past with Proposition 215, which guaranteed which provided medical marijuana to those people who have a doctor's recommendation, that there has been law enforcement officials, like the same guy who is in the ABC News story, who says that they will resort to enforcing federal law. And he also said that the 25 square foot place for growing can provide marijuana for 500 people. I don't think so. I've known people with growing operations, and with that much space, no, I don't think so. That's bullshit. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. But even if Prop 19 doesn't pass, there is still a silver lining. On October 1st, 2010, the current governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is actually against Prop 19, signed a different law, SB 1449, into law that will take effect January 1st. And what that does is it reduces the charge to those individuals who are caught with under an ounce of marijuana from a misdemeanor charge down to a civil infraction, which is great. That's fantastic. That's one step closer to it if this doesn't pass. And also, if it does, though, it kind of makes that law and the medical Proposition 215 that was passed in 1996 kind of pointless. It'll be interesting to see what happens. If it doesn't pass, maybe I'll get a Cannabis Club card, because I do have a bad back and I do take medication for it, and it does help. And I do use marijuana to help with that. So we'll just have to see what happens. I'm hoping it goes in favor. I'm voting yes on it, and a lot of people that I've talked to are also in the same boat as me. But what do you think? Now, if you want to research this further, again, there's going to be two links. The first link is a detailed description of the pros and cons and who's for and against and contributions and poll results and various other things. And, before I conclude, though, another argument that is used by those people who are against this is that they fear that children will get a hold of this. And they seem to not realize that just because it's illegal doesn't mean they can't get a handle of this, and because it's not that hard to find. And drug dealers aren't checking IDs when they're selling people pot. They don't give a shit. This would eliminate the black market or severely reduce it. It's not a big deal. It's harder for kids to get tobacco and alcohol from a legitimate source than it is for them to go get some pot or any other illicit drug. If it was legalized, taxed, and had a set age like tobacco and alcohol, it would be much harder for kids to get. The way it currently is now, the war on drugs and all this shit is a complete waste of time, in my opinion. But what do you think? Are you in a similar position that I'm in? Do you agree with me, or do you disagree with me? What are your reasons either way? Go ahead in the comments or in the post a video response, whatever. I would love to hear it. So, anyway, this has been my opinion of Prop 19 and why I support it and why I think those people who are against it are just ridiculous. But check the links. You can read further things I left out or didn't have time to mention. Anyway, do your part. Blaspheme Daily.